What's up, y'all? Today is April 9th, 2020. I'm your host, What's His Face. And like I said in my last video, the president said a lot of stuff during the task force briefing the other day, and I wanted to go over it. But first, I wanted to get out the video on the minorities and how they're disproportionately affected by COVID-19. Today, we're going to be looking at a few different things. And in this video, I'm going to start on what he said about the World Health Organization and whether or not he is or isn't going to be freezing the funding that is directed towards them. Let's take a look.
The WHO, that's the World Health Organization, receives vast amounts of money from the United States, and we pay for a majority, a biggest portion of their money. And they actually criticized and disagreed with my travel ban at the time I did it, and they were wrong. They've been wrong about a lot of things. And they had a lot of information early, and they didn't want to. They seem to be very China-centric. And we have to look into that, so we're going to look into it. We give a majority of the money that they get, and it's much more than the $58 million is a small portion of what they've gotten over the years. Sometimes they get much more than that. Sometimes it's for programs that they're doing, and it's much bigger numbers, and if the programs are good, that's great as far as we're concerned, but we want to look into it. World Health Organization, because they really are, they called it wrong. They called it wrong. They missed the call. They could have called it months earlier. They would have known, and they should have known, and they probably did know, so we'll be looking into that very carefully, and we're going to put a hold on money spent to the WHO. We're going to put a very powerful hold on it, and we're going to see. It's a great thing if it works, but when they call every shot wrong, that's no good.
Okay, now in this next clip, one of the reporters asks how crucial has the data that we've been collecting from the WHO been in our own modeling, in our own predictions about what's going to happen in our country. This was our president's response on that.
You talked a lot about the WHO, and I was wondering, Dr. Fauci had discussed them earlier, so if I could ask you a question about...
Well, he respects the WHO, and I think that's good, and he's worked with them for a long time. But they did give us some pretty bad play calling.
They've also, I think, given lots of countries in the world accurate coronavirus testing that's been central to your guys' data modeling. And so
that I don't know. I can only say that with regard to us, they're taking a lot of heat, because they didn't want the borders closed. They called it wrong. They really called, I would say, every aspect of it wrong.
So
until
the funding freeze.
I'm not happy about it. Look, we fund it. Take a look. I mean, go through step by step. They said there's no big deal, there's no big problem, there's no nothing. And then ultimately, when I closed it down, they actually said that I made a mistake in closing it down, and it turned out to be right. But at the time, they did that. So we're just going to take a look at it. We fund it, and they seem to be, I said recently in social media, I said they seem to be very China-centric. That's a nice way of saying it, but they seem to be very China-centric. And they seem to err always on the side of China, and we fund it.
Okay, so a couple things. First off, he says that the WHO called it wrong. They called, in his opinion, they called every aspect of it wrong. And if that isn't the pot calling the kettle black, I don't know what is. But in regards to their response to putting in travel restrictions on different places, especially like China, they did say that they thought it was unnecessary to restrict travel. Now we all see how that turned out. I think it was pretty necessary. But in this next section, they go on to ask him, one of the reporters asks him, is the time to freeze funding during a pandemic? In which he backtracks and says that he didn't when he said this.
And we're going to put a hold on money spent to the WHO. We're going to put a very powerful hold on it, and we're going to see. It's a great thing if it works, but when they call every shot wrong, that's no good.
So, as you can see, he did say that. But in his defense, he did say 5 or 6 times, we're going to look into it, we're going to look into it. And then he said that. So I don't know if he misspoke or what, but after one of the other reporters asked a question about, is this the right time to be withholding funding during a pandemic, the other reporter hits on that misspeaking or whatever it was in this next clip.
Yes.
Thanks. A quick follow-up on that. So is it time to freeze funding to the WHO during a pandemic?
No, maybe not. I mean, I'm not saying I'm going to do it, but we're going to look at it.
You did say that.
We give a tremendous, no I didn't. I said we're going to look at it. We're going to investigate it. We're going to look at it. But we will look at ending funding.
All right, now in this last clip, he just kind of clarifies after one of the reporters asks what he means by China-centric. So he just goes on to say that they didn't, call it early enough, that they seem to be pro-China and that kind of stuff. Take a look.
Yeah.
Mr. President, when you talk about the WHO being China-centric, what exactly are you talking about? Is it because China is underplayed how many
I
victims
don't know.
they've
They
had?
seem to come down on the side of China. Don't close your borders to China. Don't do this. They don't report what's really going on. They didn't see it, and yet they were there. They didn't see what was going on in Wuhan. They didn't see it. How do you not see it? They didn't see it. They didn't report it. If they did see it, they must have seen it, but they didn't report it.
All right, guys, thank you so much for checking out my video. We're going to keep an eye on this to see if he does, in fact, hold funding from the WHO, what that means, anything regarding that kind of stuff. And I have a couple more videos that are hopefully going to be able to come out today or early tomorrow. You are watching Inspiring Inquiry. Thank you.